Hey class, welcome to the part two of the video discussion of our first topic, overview of accounting. Okay, so natapos ako kanina dito sa sa um, yung mga types of information. So that marks the end of the first learning objective. So proceed tayo sa next learning objective of the topic, which is the accounting concepts. Okay, so in particular, the objective here is to explain the basic concepts applied in accounting. So, medyo madami ito. So, in this video, we will focus on discussing them. Yun lang. Then after that, I'm gonna end the video and then we'll proceed to the next learning objective. Okay. I'll make it quick, no? Inabot ng 35 minutes yung first video. Okay, so accounting concepts, ano ba ito? By definition, accounting concepts refer to the principles upon which the process of accounting is based. And so these are principles class. So the term accounting concepts is used interchangeably with the following terms. So kumbaga, ito daw accounting concepts, sometimes these are called accounting assumptions or accounting theories. No? So yan yung mga terms na interchangeably is nagagamit sa kanya. When we say interchangeably, other terms for saying it is switchable, substitutable, or exchangeable siya. Kaya nga no? So pwede siyang, accounting concepts can be also called as accounting assumptions or accounting theories. So, yun lang. Okay? Right. So, I'm gonna leave the definitions to you, no? Pakibasa. And then, ito. So, most accounting concepts are derived from the conceptual framework and PFRS. However, some accounting concepts are implicit, meaning they are not expressly stated in the framework or PFRS, but are generally accepted because of their long time use in the profession. So, class, take note, ano? Ang sabi dito, these concepts are implicit. Hindi talaga sila naka-state. It's just since palaging matagal na nga siyang ginagamit, palagi siyang ginagamit sa accounting profession, kaya sila nandyan. Pero hindi sila yung as in verbatim mo or expressly stated, makikita mo sila sa conceptual framework. Ganun naman talaga. Kumbaga, they are norms. They are practices which are followed. Okay? Ayan, so simulan na natin. No? Simulan na natin yung pag-discuss ng mga accounting concepts. Medyo madami sila. Well, first is the double entry system. So this word is not new to you, no? Double entry system, which says that each accountable event is recorded in two parts, debit and credit. So example is when we recognize the transaction, we have to record that. And then when we record that in a journal, diba, we all at the minimum, there's always one debit and one credit. So that's what it means to apply the double entry system. There's always a debit and a credit, double entry. So ang opposite niyan is yung single entry system. So pag single entry system, edi walang debit, walang credit. Ano lang siya? It's just like a statement and then an amount. Single entry. So yeah. Okay. The next one is the going concern assumption. So another term which I believe is not new to you, going concern assumption. So you have to take note of that in this assumption, if the business entity uses a going concern assumption, it is assumed that the entity will carry its operation or will continue to exist for an indefinite period of time. Okay, so in Tagalog, ibig sabihin, going concern assumption is we are assuming na yung business is andyan siya, mag-i-exist siya, magta-thrive siya for a long period of time. Ibig sabihin, hindi siya magsasara. Hindi siya magli-liquidate. Ano? So we're not expecting that the entity will cease its operations in the foreseeable future. Ibig sabihin, wala sa wala sa vision mo na magsara. No? Kaya kapag ang entity ay going concern assumption, syempre, yung pag-measure ng kanyang mga assets, ng kanyang mga accounts is through the fair market value. Yung mga what's this? Yung mga fair market value or historical cost, mga ganun, no? Whereas ang opposite kasi class ng going concern assumption is the liquidating concern assumption. So, in opposite is pag sinabi nating liquidating concern na yung entity, ibig sabihin, we are expecting that the company will shut down its operations. So if the company will shut down its operations, di ba, ano yung tendency? Anong tendency ng entity? Siyempre, to liquidate, which means, ibebenta niya lahat ng mga properties niya, lahat ng mga non-cash assets niya. Ang tendency niya is to liquidate them all so that those properties will be converted into cash. Kaya siya liquidating concern. So if the company is in a liquidating concern assumption, ang ginagamit natin na measurement basis sa accounting is the realizable value or the net realizable value. So anong formula nun? So when we say realizable value or net realizable value, yan. So nandyan yung estimated selling price less estimated cost to sell of the assets. Yan. So it plus ano. So when we say realizable value, that is yan, estimated selling price less estimated cost to sell. That's the net realizable value or realizable value. On the other hand, if the business entity is less, sorry for the interruption again. Ayan, no. So that's going concern assumption. The company will, we're assuming that the company will continue to exist for an indefinite period of time. Indefinite, ibig sabihin is definite. It's a long period of time. Hindi natin alam kung kailan. Infinite, parang ganun. Right? Then the opposite is the liquidating concern, whereas yung company, mag-shutdown na siya. Okay? Or mag-stop na siya ng operations. So sa accounting, that's going concern assumption. Okay? Okay, the next is the separate entity. Itong separate entity, it has other terms. It could be accounting entity, business entity concept, or entity concept. And so basahin natin. So in this concept, it is viewed. The entity is viewed separately from its owners. So, kumbaga, kung may business ka, siyempre diba yung mga sa business merong may-ari, and then merong business. So yung ganun, dalawang separate entity yun. Diba yung identity ni owner at saka iba yung identity ni business. So parang you assume them as two different institution, two different personality. Ngayon, if they are different, ibig sabihin, hindi mo dapat pwedeng pagsamahin yung mga transactions nila. Ayan. So class, itong separate entity concept, talagang ano to, hindi ito masyadong pinapractice, especially sa mga maliliit na business. For example, meron kang mini sari-sari store, di ba? So there are people na, yun, kung ano yung transaction niya, personally, nakamix siya dun sa transactions ng business niya. So, ibig sabihin, pag nangangailangan siya ng pera, for personal use, saan niya kinukuha? Sa sari-sari store, diba? Mga ganun. So, sa accounting class, especially if the corporation is, if the business entity is huge, or is big, it is applied, syempre. Maraming reason. Ang pinakamagandang reason dyan is for yung mga for legal purpose. Maraming maraming mahabang usapin ito, no? Pero in simple terms, dapat is kung ano yung transactions ni owner should not be mixed with the transactions of the business. So yung mga records nila, wag pagsasamahin. Dapat magkabukod. Yung mga properties nila, wag pagsasamahin. They should be separated. Okay? Stable monetary unit or monetary unit assumption. Yan. So, ito daw mga general accounts natin, and di ba? They are measured. Pero, with what? With what monetary unit? So, it should be, then, they should be stated in terms of a common unit. So, in this case, sa Pilipinas, syempre, di ba? Ang ginagamit natin na currency is Philippine peso. And so, therefore, the accounts, general accounts in the financial statements, they are stated in terms of Philippine peso. Okay? The purchasing power of the peso is regarded as stable or constant, and that its instability is insignificant and therefore ignored. So, kaya nga tayo may word class na stable dito, no? Stable. So, ibig sabihin, dapat yung currency na ginagamit natin sa pag-record sa FS is stable siya. Though, if you are familiar with forex, with foreign exchange, no, ano class talaga? 'Di ba? For example na lang yung mga, if you will check sa Google, 'di ba, yung for example, yung mga yung mga conversion rate ng USD to ng US dollar to Philippine peso, 'di ba? Kung i-check mo yan on a daily basis or even on an hourly basis and even on a minute basis, no, pabago-bago yan, nagpa-fluctuate siya. Kasi nga, syempre, di ba, yung kasing value ng peso natin, nagpa-fluctuate yan, depende sa galaw din ng ekonomiya. Depende sa galaw ng economy ng Pilipinas, depende sa galaw ng economy globally. So, yun yung sinasabi dito na sabi dito is, the purchasing power of the peso is regarded as stable or constant, and that its instability is insignificant and therefore ignored. So when we say instability, ibig sabihin unstable. Kasi nga guys, in reality, hindi talaga yung peso natin, di ba? Ano yan? Sa Pilipinas, 1 peso is 1 peso. Pero if you're going to compare it to other foreign currency, yung piso natin, the value of that changes. Kaya nga, di ba, diyan papasok yung yung sinasabi na iba yung halaga ng piso noon as compared to let's say 50 years ago. There's so much difference talaga. So dito sa ating stable monetary unit assumption, stable siya. We're assuming stable yung peso. Ibig sabihin, hindi siya magbabago. Piso ay piso. Okay. Next, to be useful, and if you will notice here, no, there's an asterisk here. Ito yung kanyang gustong sabihin na to be useful daw, accounting information should be stated in a common denominator. So for example, amounts in foreign currencies should be translated into peso. So class ganito kasi, no, there are companies kasi ng multinational. For example, meron siyang branch sa Pilipinas, meron siyang branch sa Amerika, meron sa Japan. So ang tanong, paano mo i-record yung mga transactions ng company na yan na involve yung transactions sa Amerika at sa Japan? So, yeah, pag sa Japan, that is Japanese yen. Pag naman sa Amerika, that is US dollar. So, in that case, dapat is i-translate yun. I-translate yung value of that transaction. Kung naka-Japanese yen, sa i-translate into peso, re-convert into peso, same goes to US dollar. No? So, that's what it means dito na dapat is when you present the values or the financial statements, dapat yung mga currency doon, lahat siya common denominator. Since nasa Pilipinas ka, and then pinapresent mo yung FS mo sa, let's say, sa BIR or sa SEC, it should be stated in Philippine peso. Ayan, okay? Alright. Time period. It is also called periodicity concept or accounting period. So, simple lang to, no? Ang sabi dito, the life of the entity is divided into series of reporting periods. Kasi nga niya, di ba? Sabi natin kanina that sa going concern assumption, the entity will continue to exist in an indefinite period of time. So, paano natin ma-measure yung performance ng business during that lifetime na indefinite. So, syempre, it is easily measured through kung meron tayong kung meron siyang kung madi-divide natin yung lifetime na yun into different reporting periods, which by default ang ginagawa natin is the performance of the business is siya, yung accounting period niya is 12 months. 12 months or 1 year. Okay, so yan. So in every year, mini-measure natin yung performance tsaka condition ng entity. Yan. Every 12 months, so ano yung transactions in 12 months, during that 12 months. Ngayon, in terms of this concept, we have yung kasing period, it could be, yung 12 months yan, it could be calendar year or fiscal year. So when we say calendar year, and familiar naman kayo sa word na calendar, di ba? So that is, it starts from January 1 and it will end on December 31. That is what calendar year means. How about fiscal year? So when we say fiscal year, this is also a 12-month period. Pero hindi siya nag-start ng January 1, hindi rin siya nag-end ng December 31. Ibig sabihin, any 12-month period that started other than January 1, we call it fiscal year. Okay? I hope you get that, no? So when we say January 1 to December 31, that's a calendar year period. Pero pag sinabi natin January 2 up to January 1, that is fiscal year. So that's, yun guys, yun yung basic example natin. Any 12-month period na hindi nag-start ng January 1, we call it fiscal year. Okay? All right. Next is the materiality concept. So materiality. So information is material if its omission or misstatement could influence economic decisions. So yeah, materiality is a matter of professional judgment and is based on the size and nature of the item being judged. Yan. So malalaman natin kung material yung isang bagay kung yung kawalan niya or yung mali sa pag-record sa kanya ay makaka-influence sa economic decisions. So example, we record the transaction. Meron tayong sales transaction sa entity. Sabihin natin 12 million. Merong sales transaction, we measured it at 12 million. The amount is 12 million. So if that is cash sales, ang entry natin doon is we debit cash 12 million and then we credit sales 12 million. So ngayon, what if na-omit natin 1 peso? That's an exaggerated example. So 1 peso lang yung na-omit natin. So instead of 12 million ang na-record mo 11,999,999. So is it material? Material ba yung 1 peso? Diba? Siyempre hindi na, di ba? Hindi material yan. So mga ganun class. Since sabi natin dito is, if the omission or the misstatement could influence economic decision, it is material. But if it's not, it's immaterial. So ngayon, syempre yung materiality, sabi nga dito is, it is based on the size and nature of the item being judged. Ayan, So it is a matter of professional judgment. Yeah, I hope you get that. Okay, we have the next one, the cost benefit or the cost constraint or reasonable assurance. Simple lang to. Actually, itong cost benefit class, you can apply this even in real life situations. Cost benefit, ang sinasabi lang dito is the cost of processing and communicating information should not exceed the benefits to be derived from it. So in other words, is ano lang class, sa transactions is yung cost of doing that should not be greater than the benefits. Other way of saying it in Tagalog is dapat sa mga transaction or in everything that we do, dapat yung benefit, yung effort na binibigay natin or na i-exert natin, dapat mas malaki lagi yung reward of by doing that. Okay? So cost benefit. So you can also apply that in a real life situation, whereas in everything you do, you have to make sure that the benefit that you will get from that thing or from doing that thing should always be greater than the cost of doing it. Okay? Right? Of course, yung sinasabi ko, guys, no, it is also a matter of judgment. No? Basta dapat, in everything you do, you have to make sure na yung makukuha mo from doing that thing is greater than the effort that you're doing. Okay? Benefit. Next one is accrual basis of accounting. So far class, wala pa namang ano, lahat naman to for sure familiar kayo dito. Sige, accrual basis of accounting. So, medyo mahaba siya. Ano lang to? We only record transactions as they happen. Kumbaga, di ba, yung mga transactions kasi natin, dito papasok kasi class yung ano eh. Of course, nagdaan na kayo sa adjusting entries, di ba? Yan. Yan. Yan papasok yun sa accrual. Whereas, di ba, in every transactions, meron diyang, for example, sa sales transaction, di ba? Yung kasing pag sa sale, it could be through cash sales or through credit sales. So, dito sa accrual basis, we disregard the cash. If the cash is paid or received, we focus on the transaction as they happen. Sige. Basahin ko na lang para mas maayos. So sa accrual basis of accounting, the effects of transactions and other events are recognized when they occur, and not as cash is received or paid. And they are recorded in the accounting records to which they relate. So ito yung common dito na laging sinasabi sa amin ng teacher namin when we were in college. Under accrual, income is recognized when earned, not when cash is received. On the other hand, expenses are recognized when expenses are incurred, not when the cash is paid. So, yan. Ito yung common dito. Ito yung mga hindi ko nalilimutan na phrase na sinasabi ng teacher namin. Under accrual basis of accounting, revenue is recognized when earned, and expenses are recognized when incurred. So, sige, i-elaborate pa natin. For example, may transaction yan na sa common examples ito, halimbawa, yung sa mga accruals at deferrals. No? Halimbawa, dun sa payment of rent, di ba? Sa payment of rent, ano to? The payment of rent. Dito sa revenue is recognized when earned. So, ibig sabihin, ganito nga dun sa, sige, balik lang tayo sa sales. No? Halimbawa, nagbenta ka ng, there's a sale of product on credit. Ibig sabihin, inutang yung product natin. So, ang tanong, kailan mo i-recognize yung revenue? Nung transaction na nagpautang ka o kapag nagbayad yung customer. So, based on accrual basis, revenue should be recognized when the sale transaction happened, not when the cash is paid. So, yun yung sinasabi na when revenue is recognized and earned. On the other hand, dito naman sa expenses are recognized when incurred. So, for example, dito, halimbawa, yung mga utilities, di ba? Yung mga electricity, yung mga telephone bills. So, kailan natin nare-recognize yung expenses? Of course, when we incur the expenses, not when we pay the bills. Yeah. So, I hope you get that. Kumbaga dito, we disregard the flow of cash, whether it is received or paid. Okay? We disregard that. Right? Okay, number 8 pa lang tayo. So we go to number 9, the historical cost concept or the cost principle. So sabi dito, the value of an asset is determined on the basis of acquisition cost. So when we say acquisition cost, this is the cost of the property of the asset when it is acquired, when it is purchased. Halimbawa, bumili ka ng property, ng land, na lang land. So kailan natin nare-record pag kasi land gas yung land kasi nagbabago yung nagbabago yung value, tumataas yan. Wait lang, bigyan ko ng example. The value of an asset is determined on the basis of acquisition cost. Sige, ganito yan. So by default, we use talaga the acquisition cost. So example nga na, land na lang. So let's say last year, the business entity, has bought land for 1 million pesos. So, i-record natin yung land sa journal, with the amount of 1 million. Ayan. Tapos sabi dito, this concept is not always maintained. Kasi class, hindi pa pwedeng, there are properties or there are items in the FS na nababago yung value, especially if the entity is using another method. For example, sa land. No? So, binili mo yan ng 1 million. Diba, alam naman natin that land, the value of the land appreciates through time. Ibig sabihin, tumataas yung value ng lupa habang tumatagal because of the developments na nangyayari in that area. So, ibig sabihin, if the entity is using fair value method, ibig sabihin, yung fair value method is kung ano yung value of that land on that certain date, yun yung magiging value niya sa balance sa statement of finance sa financial statements. Ibig sabihin, for example, 1 million itong land natin last year yung binili, and then just this year na-appraise siya naging 1.3 million. So it would reflect in the balance sheet. From 1 million acquisition cost, 1.3 na siya this current year kasi yun yung kanyang fair market value. So yun yung sinasabi dito na this concept is not always maintained. Pero by default, we measure the value of an asset on the basis of the acquisition cost. Okay? I hope to get that kasi kapag marami ka nang alam, medyo masalimuot na tayo. Hindi na siya ganun kasimple. Another example dito, other than land, is the inventory. Diba? We record the inventory based on the acquisition cost. Inventory, that could be merchandise inventory or raw materials. Mga ganun. And diba, I don't know if na-discuss na sa inyo itong lower of cost and net realizable value ng inventory. Pero yung inventory kasi natin, class, nag-aano rin yan, nababago rin yung value niyan. Ito, lower cost and NRV. Okay, yung cost, that is the acquisition cost. Yung NRV, ito yung diniscuss natin kanina sa liquidating concern. If the entity is in liquidating concern, di ba? Ang gamit nating measurement basis is NRV. Ang formula ng NRV is estimated selling price less cost to sell. Ayan. Alright? Okay. So, sana nag-gets nyo yan. Kapag na second year na kayo, mas maiintindihan nyo itong tower of cost and NRV sa inventory kasi dyan yan mali-discuss thoroughly. Okay? Next, concept of articulation. Ayan. Okay, so class, to be honest, no, itong concept of articulation, this is new to me. As in, I just learned this nung binasa ko itong book. Pero ano naman siya, hindi naman siya malalim. Basahin natin Ang sabi dito, all of the components of a complete set of FS are interrelated. So ano ibig sabihin interrelated? That means connected. Okay? So lahat daw ng components ng FS natin, yung sinabi kong complete set, yung balance sheet, income statement, statement of changes in equity, statement of cash flows, tsaka notes to financial statements, lahat daw ng items dyan, interrelated yan, interconnected yung mga yan. I-prove natin yan later. Okay. Sige, ito example, no? Paano natin masabing interrelated sila or interconnected? For example, when evaluating an entity's ability to generate future cash flows, all the financial statements should be used and not only the statement of cash flows. So, yung example natin, gusto nating malaman or ma-evaluate natin yung kakayanan ng isang business na makapag-produce or makapag-generate ng cash in the future. So in this example, papakita natin na interrelated or connected yung mga items natin dun sa 5 complete set of FS. So when we check the statement of financial position, Ito, so gusto mong malaman yung kakayanan ng company na makapag-generate or makapag-produce ng cash in the future. So punta ka sa balance sheet or statement of financial position. You check the receivables and the payables. So, di ba, sa receivables at saka sa payables, makikita mo kung magkano pa yung receivable ni entity. Sa payables, makikita mo kung magkano pa yung mga future na payables niya, yung mga future na babayaran niya. Yung receivables naman, yung mga future na makokolekta niya. So, through these two, diba, malalaman mo kung magkano magkano pa yung matatanggap niya na pera, magkano pa rin yung perang babayaran niya in the near future. So, that's one. How about we go to income statement. So, sabi dito, through this statement, makikita natin yung entity's ability to generate cash flows from its operations. So, syempre, di ba, through income statement, saan ka titingin dyan? Dun sa pinakahuli, sa profit. So, makikita mo, if the entity has a profit or has a loss, so dun mo makikita kung may kakayanan ba siya makapag-generate ng cash. Diba? Kasi kung if it has a profit, edi most likely there would be cash. Kung hindi man cash, that would be receivable. On the other hand, if it's a loss, edi more on payables ang sa mas marami expenses, mas maraming payables. So, ibig sabihin, yung kakayanan niya na makapag-generate ng cash is lesser. Kasi nga, loss siya. Mas mataas ang expenses. Okay? So, nakakadalawang na tayo. FS. The next is the statement of changes in equity. Okay, so, sa statement of changes in equity, pwede mo diyang makita yung mga issued tsaka unissued shares. So, for sure, this is new to you, no? Mga issued tsaka unissued shares, ang pinag-uusapan natin dito is a corporation, no? Corporation ng entity natin. Kasi itong corporation, isa sa mga means nila to generate cash is through the issuance of shares of stocks. Yan yung mga tinatawag na common shares or common stock, tsaka preference shares or preference stock. So yun, nag-i-issue sila ng mga yun, so they could encourage investors. Whereas yung investors na yan, if the investors would invest to the entity, siyempre, cash yung ipang babayad nila dun sa mga shares. Ayan, so, ang tawag natin dun, equity financing. So, basically, there are two ways to finance the business. Equity financing and debt financing. So, pag sinabi natin debt financing, di mangungutang naman. Mangungutang yung entity so that the entity could have cash. Equity financing, mag-i-encourage naman siya ng investors to put money on the business. Okay? Take note of that. Intindihan yun in the future pa. Next, we have, okay na yan. Next is the cash flows naman. So, sa cash flows, makikita natin dito yung information on historical changes in cash and cash equivalents. So, yeah. So, dun sa cash and cash equivalents, through the cash flows, makikita mo kung paano ba yung pattern ng paggamit ng cash ng business. Kung saan niya ginagamit yung mga cash, saan niya binabayad, saan niya nakakollect, saan nanggagaling yung mga sources of cash collected, yan, sa cash flow naman. And then lastly, yung notes natin. Excuse me. And sa notes, it provides information on the quality of earnings, whether yung income or yung expenses ay realized or unrealized. So ito yung sinasabi natin. Dun sa income, is the income is collected in cash or is it still receivable? Pag dating naman sa expenses, yung bang expenses na yan is recurring or parang on a monthly basis na i-incur yun or hindi. Mga ganun. Okay? So, medyo mahaba yung elaboration. Ang gusto lang sabihin sa concept ng articulation is connected class yung mga items natin sa complete set of financial statements, which is true. No. Connected talaga lahat yan. Okay. Number 11 pa lang. Out of 22. Okay. I didn't expect this to be this long. Okay. Full disclosure. So sa full disclosure, the this principle recognizes that the nature and amount of information included in the FS reflect a series of judgmental trade-offs. So, ano ibig sabihin ng trade-offs? Exchange. Other word, exchange. Or kung alam niyo yung word na barter, di ba? Kasi barter, di ba? We exchange one thing over another. So, that's trade-offs. There's a trade. There's a barter. Okay? So, ngayon, bakit kailangan ng mag-trade-off? So, may dalawa na gustong ma-achieve. Sufficient detail to disclose matters that make a difference to users, and sufficient condensation to make the information understandable, keeping in mind the cost of preparing and using it. So it may be broad pa, no? Pero pag sinabi natin full disclosure principle, no? Just simply think of transparency. Dapat transparent. Kung ano yung totoong nangyari, i-disclose mo. Okay? Transparency. Okay? Next is the consistency concept. And so consistent. The FS are prepared on the basis of principles that are applied consistently from one period to the next. Ayan. So consistency concept. Kung anong ginamit mong principle ng mga nakaraang taon, dapat yun din yung gagamitin ng principle this current year when considering transactions. Though we're not saying na hindi pwedeng palitan. Pwede naman. Pwede magpalit. As long na yun ay permitted by the BFRS or yung pagpapalit is magre-result to a more relevant and reliable information. Right? And changes in accounting policies are disclosed in the notes. So this could be new to you. Pag sinabi nating accounting changes, kasi dalawa yan. It could be accounting policy or accounting estimate. So it will be discussed in the future topics. For this one, I just want to say na if there's a change in accounting policy, it should be disclosed in the notes to financial statements. Okay, number 13, matching. So matching. So this is simply the association of cause and effect. Na costs are recognized as expenses when the related revenue is recognized. Okay. If you are familiar with the perpetual method of recording inventory, which I believe you are still not, kasi hindi pa rin siya nadidiscuss sa inyo. To put it simple lang, sa matching is, we think of, kumbaga, nagkaroon ng expenses kasi merong related revenue regarding that. Example, sige, sa sales, di ba? When we record, ba't ka nagkaroon ng sales? Before you recognize a sale, for sure, no, there are expenses incurred before you generate that sales. And we can simply call them as cost of sales. So, ganun plus na. Basta ito lang. Kumbaga, when the related revenue is recognized, the related expenses, the related costs are also recognized. Okay? 14. And then, so here we have itong 14, 15, 16, tsaka 17. These are concepts na nandyan, pero hindi naman siya masyadong, class, no? Hindi masyadong na-discuss. I don't know, hindi rin naman siya masyadong na-expound. Yun namang definitions niya is hindi naman mahirap intindihin dito. So, I just leave this for your readings, okay? From itong entity theory, proprietary theory, steward equity theory, tsaka fund theory. Okay? Wala naman masyadong dito. These are relevant, pero this can be understood easily naman. Okay? Next, we have realization. So when you say realization, it means recognition. Medyo magugulo kayo. Sige, basahin ko na ito. Realization, this is the process of converting non-cash assets into cash or claims for cash. Realize. Okay? So from non-cash to cash. So normally, when we say realize, edi cash na siya. No? Okay. Dito, according sa definition. This concept deals with the revenue recognition. Okay. Next is we have prudence. Other word is conservatism. And so it is the use of caution when making estimates under conditions of uncertainty. And so, ano lang, prudence, conservative. So, for sure, alam niyo yung word na conservative. Okay? So, medyo mahaba ito. Pero in accounting point of view, no, when we say prudence or conservatism, dapat yung assets or income are not overstated. Liabilities and expenses are not understated. Okay? So in other words, when exercising prudence, the one which has the least effect on equity is chosen. Kasi nga ganito class na. When you overstate, pag sinabi natin overstated, ibig sabihin sobra. Pag sinabi natin understated, kulang. Okay? So kapag overstated yung asset or yung income, so most likely, di ba, kung ina-assume mo na malaki yung income or sobra siya, diba? So ano magiging epekto nun sa equity mo? Kung nagkaroon ng correction. So kailangan mong bawasan yung equity. So which is not a good, this is not a good adjustment. Kasi hindi nga siya, in terms of effect, it's not a good effect. No? Ang magandang effect sa equity is tumaas siya. So same goes with expenses. Kung i-assume dapat yung expenses, hindi natin siya ina-understate. Kasi pag in-understate yung expenses, consequently, tataas din ang income. So babalik tayo din sa unang example. Okay? So actually, in this example, sa prudence or conservatism, dito niyo makikita yung question ko sa Google Classroom natin, sa cookie jar research. No? So I'm gonna leave that for your readings class. No? So you could answer the question. You may also do research sa internet if you want more comprehensive examples of cookie jar research. Okay, konti na lang. So expense recognition principles, matching concept. This is almost the same with the earlier concept, yung matching, no? Ayan. So, ayan. So, pag kasi dito, ang thought dito is, yun nga, nire-recognize mo yung, when you recognize the revenue, you also recognize the expenses, the cost that relates to that revenue. Okay. Kung na-recognize mo yung revenue this year, the cost related to that should also be recognized this year also. Example, ito nga niya. The cost of inventory is initially recognized as asset and recognized as expense when the inventory is sold. Other examples include freight out and sales commissions. These are expense in the period that the related sales are recognized. So guys, if you have if you have questions na hindi pa rin, for example, in this discussion, hindi pa rin siya malinaw, you can PM me or you can ask sa natin sa classroom. So we could expound on that topic na hindi kayo nalinawan. Okay? Next is we have the systematic and rational allocation. Ang common examples dito is yung depreciation natin, depreciation ng mga property, plant, and equipment. Kumbaga, when we recognize the expense, hindi natin sila ine-expense lahat. Kaya nga siya systematic and rational. So, kumbaga, dinidivide natin yung expense depende sa lifespan ng PPE. Ayan. So, lastly, immediate recognition. Ayan. So, kung dito sa systematic and rational allocation, ini-spread natin yung recognition of expenses. Dito naman sa matching concept is nire-recognize mo yung expense kapag yung related revenue is recognized. Dito sa immediate recognition, immediate. Ini-expense mo agad yung item immediately once it is happened. Ayan. Example nga dito is ito. Yung mga losses, impairment losses. So, as it happened, you recognize the expense. Hindi katulad itong systematic and national allocation, tsaka itong matching concept, nade-defer or nade-delay yung recognition ng expenses. Ano? Ito naman masarap na. Okay, class. So, ayun. Fortunately, natapos yung 22 na concepts. Ano? Okay, so this wraps the second discussion of the overview of accounting. Okay, I'm gonna stop this from here and then I'll start recording the other parts. Ano? Okay. Yeah, that's all for now muna. Hope you watch this video.